You are not forever dirty. You are lovable. You don't have to prove anything to me. It was, I guess, yeah, so it makes me cry just thinking about it.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
remember it felt like getting born again again.
Yep.
It was the same, like, what? That's how you feel about me? It was that same revelation of his ferocious love for me. And it was just utterly, it felt like 1 million pounds got lifted off of me.
Yeah. Welcome to the 200th episode of the CrossCounsel podcast. I didn't plan for my conversation with Pastor Shane to land on episode 200, but it somehow seems especially fitting that it did. Shane Holden and I first met more than 25 years ago, soon after I joined CrossCounsel full time. Back then, neither of us could have imagined where the Lord would lead us, how our friendship would grow, or the many ways He would use our lives over the years. Looking back, I'm grateful for God's faithfulness every step of the way. If you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, I'd encourage you to go back and start there. You'll hear how God called Shane into ministry, the story behind Mad City Church, and how our friendship began. In this final episode, the conversation takes a deeply personal turn. Although Shane had received transformational prayer ministry with me before, one particular session became a life-changing encounter with Jesus. After the Lord prompted him to face a deeply traumatic part of his past, Shane shared it with Vicky for the very first time. Just days later, he came to Madison, where Jesus met him in a profound way that continues to shape both his life and his ministry today. It's an honest conversation about courage, vulnerability, and what can happen when Jesus is invited into the places we've spent years trying to keep hidden. Before we jump in, let me simply say thank you. Reaching 200 episodes is a reminder that CrossCounsel has never been about one person. Since its beginning in 1997, God has faithfully provided through dedicated staff members, faithful volunteers, generous ministry partners, and churches that have believed in this work, not to mention the countless friends who have prayed, encouraged, and stood with us. We simply wouldn't be here without them. If this podcast has encouraged you, or if CrossCounsel has impacted your life, would you consider becoming part of that story? Your prayers and financial support help us continue to bring immediate help, lasting hope, and changing generations through the power of the Spirit of Christ. You can learn more at crosscounsel.com. Now here's the concluding part of my conversation with Pastor Shane Holden. The Mad City days come to a close. God's calling you somewhere else.
Sure. Well, what part of what happened was, we were young and that church blew up to 14 or 1500 people. And it wasn't like people that grew up in the church and had fallen away and then they're just coming back. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
There was out of darkness into light kind of transformations. They were broken, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we were able to lean into you and cross counsel to be able to, because we just couldn't take care of all these people.
Mm-hmm.
So we used, you were a gift, and then Kevin Randall was
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the process of starting the Center for Christian Counseling. And so those two ministries were like our counseling and inner healing ministries. It was you two, which was a huge blessing for us. But nonetheless, it was just, we were overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
We're young. There's like, what, 5 or 6 of us on staff. We didn't have assistants. We didn't have anything. We didn't even have official elders outside of us because we didn't even understand that stuff. Well, we're pastors, we're the elders. Like we didn't even have time to get those kind of systems and structures in place. We know what we were doing. So I started when I was 25 or 26. When I'm 32, 33, I had full blown burnout. Like I didn't even know what was happening. Started having panic attacks. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital, and they told me that they just said there's a place called burnout, and then there's this over here, and you're over here. Basically, what the doctor said is you kind of, he said you kind of broke yourself, your adrenal glands, all the stuff. Like you've been living with 6 gears and you can't anymore. If you keep doing what you're doing the way you're doing it, you'll be dead by the time you're 40. Because I preached back then, I preached every weekend, and you were there, so you
Mm-hmm.
saw how I preached.
Mm-hmm.
2 services, an hour plus each one, 100 miles an hour. And then I did a Bible study with like 300 people that turned into another service every Tuesday night. We did a prayer meeting every Friday night. I did a wedding almost every weekend
Hmm.
back then. Um, there was constant counseling. I was 80 hours a week at 4 kids. It
Hmm.
was insane.
Right.
I didn't know it though, and I was so broken, because of the way I grew up. I'm like, I'm gonna be a good son. I'm gonna prove my worth. Right. And so I just grinded, man, and ground myself down. And so what they told me at that time was you need a year off. If you're going to be healthy again, you're going to need a whole year of rest. You really broke yourself. But I took 12 weeks because the church needed me.
Hmm.
And it was that kind of thing. The 12 weeks wasn't nearly enough. I never really recovered from that.
Mm.
I just, everything
Yeah.
was just different after that. And so by the time I think I got to be 37 or so, I needed out. It was time to go. So God opened up a door for me to be a police officer for a season, which I didn't like, but it was a way to extract me from Mad City Church. So I
Mm.
think I did that for 6 months or so. It was a fun experience, but I wasn't made to be a cop. That became pretty evident pretty quick.
Right.
So
If I could interrupt you too, just you talking about preaching a couple times a Sunday for an hour, that's not a whole lot of fun to sub for you. When I'm like, I'm
that's
a,
right. You did.
I
Yeah,
did
you
a
did
couple
it.
times, and
Yep.
yeah. So it was funny because the first time you asked me to preach, it was the first time a Sunday morning was canceled because of a snowstorm. I'm like, I was good to go, and then you can't. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, did I just miss my turn? You're like, dude, you're up next week. My message really changed from that week. And and it really was evidence for me. Wasn't even planning on talking about this, but some of the things that God had done in my heart and just with my progress in transformational prayer and what God was doing, growing me up and maturing me. I remember there were dividers behind the worship team so that you could come up and just the way we worked it because it was in a gymnasium. And I remember being back there sort of in the bullpen to preach, and Marlene Sorensen was introducing me. And as I'm standing there, like ready to preach for an hour, which I've never done before, I just remember this arrow coming at me from wherever saying, "You're going to screw up. Like, this is all on you. You're going to screw up." And I'm like, okay, I gotta live what I preach. And I just in that moment, I had a mini little session with Jesus. I'm like, Lord, I'm feeling this arrow. I'm admitting it. There's something inside me that says you're gonna screw up. And Marlene, I don't even know what Marlene said about me because as this is going on, right, the brain is just processing. Okay, I can't just wait. If there's a gap there, people are waiting for me. But God was so gracious in that moment, and I just heard from Him. I've done too much in you for you to screw up. And it was just end of story. And I think like I stood up a little bit taller, and it was just perfect timing. She introduced me, and I walked out there, and I think I easily gave the most clear message that I've ever given in my life, and did it again. But I think in between services, what I remember about you when that Sunday, because you were still there, you didn't introduce me. You came up to me and you're like, "Yeah, I was talking to a couple people," and you had this like befuddled, like confused look on your face. They actually kind of like you. I'm like,
What do you
"Oh,
know?
yeah, I know. Yeah, this was a prank. Somebody dared me to do this."
You were getting punked, man.
It was kind of cool. So that's just actually sitting under your preaching, I think also just changed the way that I approached speaking publicly. So I think I'm about 1% there. But yeah, okay. So being a police officer wasn't your calling, and so then what
Right.
happened?
What did I can't, it's all kind of blurry. There was a guy named Dr. Dwight Perry, good man.
Hmm.
He was the denominational leader for Great Lakes Baptist, which is now Converge International. And he and I just kind of bumped into each other, and they were looking for a someone to be a denominational leader, but head up their church planting movement for Converge International, like in the Midwest kind of thing. So he and I got talking, and it just seemed like a really good fit. So I started working with them, and simultaneously, as I'm working with them, leading their church planting, after I had left Mad City, um, as much as we thought the transition was right, and because Tom Flaherty, my pastor, he came and became the senior pastor, it all felt right to everyone. It just transitions are hard, right? And
Hmm.
so it just didn't fit for everyone. So several hundred people, which probably should have been forecasted and expected, but we didn't, ended up leaving Mad City just kind of feeling displaced. And so I think it was maybe a year or year and a half later while I'm working with Converge doing their church planting stuff, something like that. A group of us started talking about forming a new church with a new vision and ended up calling it Damascus Road. And
Huh.
so
How did that
that was a
story
couple.
go? How did that story go naming the church?
That's funny. That was your idea, wasn't it? You came up with
You were
Damascus.
thinking new beginnings, and I'm like, first
You
of
said
all,
health. You said it felt like a health club or something.
it felt like a treatment center. That's what it felt like. Which, on one level, I think the church should be a hospital, right? You believe that,
Yep. Yep.
but it was first like we were comfortable at Mad City. Tom's a great leader, all good, but it just felt like we were pulled to kind of come over and help. When you were talking earlier about the conversions at Mad City, it's one thing to be at a church where somebody says, "Okay, if you want to put your trust in Jesus, raise your hand." And I've seen that, and people sort of sheepishly kind of raise their hand or they shuffle up to the front. When people were getting converted, saved at Mad City, it was like they were like eyes wide open, leaning, stretching out, like trying to reach you. Like, I want, it was so intense.
It
And
was.
so that's part of what I had in mind. It's like those kind of experiences and even these quiet miracles. It doesn't have to be all the rah rah, but what we would see at CrossCounsel are these quiet miracles where it's like these continuous sort of transformational experiences. And I thought, wow, with the DNA that's in you and that was going to be created at Damascus Road, I'm like, that's the kind of the Damascus Road experience. And so I threw that out to you, and you were like, New Beginnings is kind of you're just not sold on it. And then I remember talking to you a day or so later because you said you were going to run it past your sister and past Vicky, of course. And that was your real problem because they both liked it better than New Beginnings. You're like, the only reason I don't like it is it was your idea. So,
Could have been my idea.
right. Yeah. So welcome to my life. So, all right. I just wanted to sneak that in. So yeah, getting this thing rolling at Damascus Road. A lot of people came over from Mad City at that point.
Yep. Yeah, and a bunch of people got like it was cool. I think in 18 months or so, it was like 600 people. A
Hmm.
lot of people were coming to faith again. But what happened there before we started it, I don't even know if you were part of this. There was a launch meeting, like a conversation that
Hmm.
happened
Hmm.
because because I did not want to start another church,
Hmm.
nor did I ever want to be a senior pastor again. I really didn't.
Right.
Like it almost killed me, man. That's the last thing I want to do. So there was a few other people that were really trying to launch a new church, and they were reaching out like, Shane, we need you, man. We just need your help. Like we can't do without you, kind of thing. And so we have this meeting. I don't remember how many. It was the River Food Pantry.
Yeah, I
We
remember.
videoed it.
Yeah.
I wanted the
Hmm.
evidence of it, and the vision that was cast was this is going to be a different model of church. I do not want to be a senior pastor. I don't want to be the senior pastor of this new church. That's a terrible idea. It's just going to hurt the church that I just started and left called Man City Church. And I don't want to be a senior pastor. So I want to do this together. And the dream of it was nobody would take a paycheck, that there would be a group of leaders, like a teaching team, elders, and none of us would take a paycheck.
Hmm.
And because we'd get our money somewhere else, and it wouldn't all be on one person again, because I lived that and it almost killed me.
Hmm.
And so we're going to do that again. There's going to be a different model, a different vision. No one's going to take a paycheck. We're going to share the load. And then all the money will go to the poor. And we're going to show the city of Madison a different model of church, something different. And I said in the meeting, in that launch meeting, if it ever morphs back into this is my church and it's all on me, I'm out because I don't want to do that. And long story short, as beautiful as it was, and it was, within 18 months, everybody looked at it as my church. even though I wasn't the senior pastor and I wasn't getting a paycheck from it. I was making my money with Converge. I didn't even get a salary from it. It became my church. And
Hmm.
part of it's probably just because of my name and the community and the way people looked at me. So
Hmm.
pretty soon I'm preaching every other week and it looked like I'm the senior pastor, even though I actually had a full-time job somewhere else. And even in that, it became too much. I got a full-time job with Converge. I'm preaching twice a week at Damascus Road. People are looking at it like it's my church, so everybody there wants a piece of me to meet with them and counsel them, disciple them, and all the same stuff. It just kind of morphed. And then some of the guys that at the beginning that were in on the vision, like, yeah, I won't. People started wanting a paycheck. They
Hmm.
just did. It's just what it is, man. Like I was like it got to be at a point where I was the only one that wasn't getting a paycheck.
Hmm.
There was a youth guy getting a paycheck. There was a children's person getting a paycheck. There's a couple other pastors getting a paycheck. And I'm the only one not getting a paycheck, but people still think it's mine and I'm the senior pastor and so it just, and I wasn't mad about it. Like I understand human nature, and suddenly it was like, well, man, I don't want to go have to have a job when I'm gonna be a pastor. I'm blah blah blah. So it just, we had a vision, and it didn't manifest,
Hmm.
and so it got to the point where I was like, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be the senior pastor of a church, and I'm not the senior pastor of this church, but it didn't matter what I said because people assumed I was.
Right.
And so, in the midst of all this confusion, for me, I got the call from. Actually, what happened was I was driving because not only was I preaching twice a week at Damascus Road and then leading this church planting movement, I was helping a guy named James Marcato plant a church in Milwaukee. I forget what
Oh.
James called his, but I was going there every other week
Hmm.
to preach. I drive
Hmm.
to Milwaukee. So I'm exhausted again, man. All my own brokenness slamming me in
Hmm.
the face again. So
Okay.
I'm driving to Milwaukee one Sunday to preach for him, and I'm exhausted, man. I just utterly exhausted. I'm like, this is insane, God. I'm put myself right back in the same situation. I'm sorry, but Lord, I can't keep doing this. I can't help James down here in Milwaukee. I can't help the Damascus Road guys. I can't do this. I can't. I'm exhausted. And so basically I tapped out. I did. I hit my steering wheel. I said, Lord, I surrender. If you want me to be a senior pastor again, I'll do it. It seems like a bad idea for me to do it again in Madison. It seems like it's gonna hurt, but I surrender. Like whatever you want, Lord, I can't keep doing this. Amen.
Hmm.
Instantly, I have a thought that comes so clear and it was so loud. I answered out loud. The thought was, would you be willing to move? And it was so loud and out of nowhere,
Hmm.
which I had never thought of moving. We
Hmm.
loved Madison.
Right.
I just said, where? Instantly, lacrosse. I'm like, what? What? At the time, I couldn't have told you if lacrosse was 5,000 or 50,000. I'd never been there. I didn't know what part of the state it was in. I just said, Lord, if this is you, obviously, yes. But if this is just me I don't even have time for this emotional energy to be spent. So if this is you, confirm it today, some way that I know it's you, or I'm never thinking about it again
Hmm.
because I don't have the emotional energy and I could just be tired. Maybe this isn't you, whatever. Amen, kind of thing. So I go to this church, I get there, I preach, I'm getting ready to leave, and this lady grabs me who happened to be, I don't know if you remember Jimmy Gantner from the
Yeah.
Brewers.
Yeah.
Well, I got to know him, whatever. It's his
Yeah.
wife.
Okay.
And she grabs me and she says, hey, Shane, have you ever thought about moving? And I laughed. I go, not till 2 hours ago, just kind of joking. And I say, why are you asking? She said, well, my sister's a part of this church whose pastor left a year ago, and they all feel like you're their guy. And I keep telling them there's no way he'd ever move, but they're just like convinced that you're supposed to be their next pastor. And I said, well, where is it? And she said, have you ever heard of a place called Lacrosse? And I was like, what? I didn't say anything at that point. Then it was just poker face. I'm like,
Hmm.
because this is starting to feel holy. I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it. And she's like, do you think you'd ever be willing to move to a place like that? And I just said, God can do anything. So if it's God, yeah, I'm willing to do anything. That was it. I go home Me and Vicky go for a walk Sunday afternoon. I tell her the story. She says, I don't want to move. Like she's just like, I'm like, hey, Vic, I'm just telling you a story. This is just what really happened to me today.
Hmm.
Just telling you a story. I'm not gonna go put my resume on pastor.com or something. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just telling you a story. So fast forward 3, 4 more months, I'm still doing all this stuff, exhausted. I get a phone call from this guy, headhunter, a headhunter guy. And I used to get these calls a lot back then from churches because Mad City became kind of a thing. And so lots of churches were always trying to get me to come be their senior pastor after I left Mad City. So he calls and he says, hey, Shane, there's a church interested in you. I said, no interest. You know, I don't want to be a senior pastor. He's like, just hear me out on this one. I'm like, okay, tell me about it. He says, this is how he starts, Steve. He says, it's a 110-year-old Evangelical Free Church of America. I stopped him. I said, bro, we can be done right now. No, that's a terrible idea. I will ruin their church. I will mean to ruin their church.
Hmm.
I'm not their guy. I don't have khakis. I don't have an MDiv. I believe women can preach and teach and everything a man can do. I'm with the Apostle Paul. I pray in tongues more than you all, and I would that all God's people would pray in tongues. Like, come as you are, blue jeans and t-shirt. I want to see sinners come to, like, I would wreck it. That's a terrible idea. So he laughs and he says, they know all that. They know who you are from Mad City Church. They want to change. They feel like it's time for them to change. And I'm like, well, they say, whatever. We argue a little bit. And I said, okay, well, where is it? And he says, have you ever heard of La Crosse? I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. And so it was that church, it was that group. So one thing led to another, and it got to the point for Vicky and I where it was the same thing. We got to the point where we felt like, man, if we don't do this, it's just because we don't want to. Like
Hmm.
this is God. And so it was kind of his way of extracting me out of a situation in Madison too that was going to end up hurting Mad City Church if I became the senior pastor of Damascus Road Church, right? And so it just seemed to be like God's leading to Vicky and I and our family, and that's ultimately what got us here.
All right. So moving into, there's maybe one time that I remember while you were in Madison where I think we met in a room in your house to do some cross-counsel type ministry. And I don't remember exactly all that came of that. And I don't remember the date when you were in Madison. I don't know if you made a special trip, but you decided to come down here and actually put your butt on our couch and deal with some stuff. I don't even remember what triggered the appointment in the first place, but tell me what you remember about that experience when you came here.
Are you talking about this? 'Cause I met with you a couple different times. Are you talking
Yeah.
about the one that was insanely powerful for me?
Yes. Yes. The insanely
That was,
powerful one.
yeah, yeah. That was. I mean, I had done a few things with you
Yeah.
previous, but what happened then? I was here, and I had been here for I think 8 years. I was in my late 40s, and I just, like I kept having, I kept tripping back into some familiar patterns of sin and dysfunctional behavior, and it's frustrating, right? Because it was frustrating,
Hmm.
and so Vicky and I were talking one night, and she says, Shane, I know what you would tell other people. You preach it all the time. You preach it all the time. You would tell them that they got to get to the root of it because there's a reason they keep falling into that broken, dysfunctional, sinful patterns of behavior
Hmm.
because there's pain inside and they haven't dealt with it. Like that's what you would say. Like there's something in there, Shane, that you got to deal with. And even as she's saying it, I know what it is, but I don't want to deal with it. And I had never wanted to deal with it.
Hmm.
So I can't sleep. I
Hmm.
have this. So I finally get up. It's like 2 in the morning, and I'm me, workaholic. Part of how I cope. So I start checking email. I'll work. I can't sleep. I'll work. And the first email I get is from this guy that goes to this church who is he don't even know what the prophetic is, right?
Hmm.
Because I came here, they didn't know any of that stuff. Like it's been a process to anyway.
Hmm.
He doesn't know any of that kind of stuff. He's as straight laced as they come, man. A little older than me, and he has sent me an email just about an hour before I'm checking my email. And it says, Shane, this is going to sound crazy. God woke me up with you on my heart, and I started praying for you. And as I was praying for you, I felt like God spoke to me and said, you have pain in your past directly related to your dad, and the Lord says it's time to deal with it and find healing. And
Mm. Mm.
I, I'm just, I'm trembling in the 2, 3 in the morning. And Vicky, I finally wake her up at 5, and I'm just right. And I finally share with her sexual abuse that happened with my dad when I was about 8 years old, that I just locked up, put away, shoved it, never ever. She obviously, Vicky's and I started dating when I was 14.
Hmm.
She's my best friend. She knows everything about me. She's like, how could you not have told me this? Like, how could you have been living with this your whole life and never? I'm like, I haven't told anyone. You're the first person that I've ever told. And like, that's not the thing you want to tell your wife. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, sexually abused by my dad, like just, but I didn't tell anyone. I locked it away like it didn't even happen. Like I dissociated from it completely. But I know that God's got his finger on it. And it's time and if I don't deal with this, I think it's going to wreck me. Like I really think it's time. Like if I don't finally find healing for this, I think it's going to wreck me because my wheels were already starting to wobble, man. They just were like, and I just because you got to if you don't find healing for that stuff, you're gonna numb it in other ways, right? As you
Right.
know, from ministry. And so I was heading in a bad direction. So that's what precipitated that meeting with you. And that was life. And again, I know like you got to be careful with this, right? A lot of times your ministry with people, it's going to be multiple sessions of
Hmm.
hard work, right?
Right.
But then you see those times too, right? Like
Hmm.
I walked into it, it was just maybe I was just so ready, I was so ripe, however you want to explain it. But dude, God showed up in your office and just, I mean, I was profound.
Hmm.
The level of healing I found in 30 minutes in that session that day was utterly profound. But that's what precipitated that. And I'm not, and I thought at that point, I'm healed. It's over. I'm never gonna have to do this again. And for about 2 years, maybe 3, I think that was probably accurate. And then the Lord, gently in His mercy and in His way, he brought me back to that place. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, and took me a little deeper. And I think 2 or 3 times since then He
Hmm.
has. But the 80% of the healing and the beginning of it was right there that day in your office. And if you ask my wife or anyone that's here with me, they would say Shane's been different since then.
Yeah. Would you be willing to describe because part of a big part of the ministry is actually going specifically to those places. And so you're in this memory, dad's doing what he's doing to you. You're identifying what you came to believe about yourself because of this. And then, you were willing to invite Jesus. Could you
Yeah.
pick it up from there? Like, what do you remember in that experience as you were holding out the beliefs that you were holding out?
Well, yeah, because like what you discover on the backside of stuff like that is what happened to me, what happens to people, it's horrible.
Right.
It is. But it's not necessarily what happened to you that wrecks you.
Right.
It's the lies you believe because of what happened to you that wreck you. That's that fortress of lies that gets built up in
Hmm.
your mind and your heart. And so for me, it was as simple as you deserved it.
Hmm. Yeah.
You deserved it. Somehow you brought this on yourself. You're always going to be dirty.
Hmm.
You're never going to be fully accepted and loved by God. And you're always going to have to prove to him that you're a good son, right? It's just those were the main lies that I believed because of it. And as simple as Jesus just speaking truth to you in that moment. You know what I mean? That's really what it was. You didn't deserve that. You
Right.
were a child.
Yeah.
My heart was broken for you. You didn't bring that on yourself. It was unjust what happened to you. You are not forever dirty. You are lovable. You don't have to prove anything to me. It was, I guess, yeah, so it makes me cry just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember it felt like getting born again again.
Yep.
It was the same, like, what? That's how you feel about me? It was that same revelation of his ferocious love for me. And it was just utterly, it felt like 1,000,000 pounds got lifted off of me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and it's stuff that you would preach. Like you would say that
Oh,
to people. You
yeah,
would preach that. It's
yeah, that's
and
different, right?
right.
Saying it, and that 18-inch journey, man,
Hmm.
that's a big deal, and you can't make that happen. That's where you need the work of the Spirit.
Right. And so yeah, I just remember the look on your face. It was like stuff that you knew, but you were dumbfounded that Jesus loved
Yeah,
you that much. And like you're just
yep.
kind of looking around like he loves me that much. And I remember what you told me afterwards because that was that physical house was a place that you would avoid. You wouldn't drive past that place because of
That's right.
right. And
Yep.
so but you didn't do that day.
Yeah, instantly I left. It was so the healing was so profound. I wanted to go, just see
Hmm.
what would happen. So I drove over to the house I grew up in and I just sat in front of it and there was nothing. It was just peace.
Right.
There was no shame, there was no fear, there was no even the rage and the anger. I mean, that was because that was part of my dysfunction. Obviously,
Hmm.
I could like all that rage, all the anger, it was gone, man. I didn't even think it'd be possible for me to get to a place like that in my life, but it was real. I sat in front of that house and had nothing but peace.
Yeah. And I remember being back in your place in Alaska and even Vicky, like, he's different.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty cool. So,
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Beautiful what Jesus can do.
hmm yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the biggest word in the English language is if we allow him,
Yep.
right? Letting Jesus be Jesus. So what's your overall take then when somebody's interested in coming to CrossCounsel? What would you tell them? Is
Well,
it
I mean,
worth going? Is it worth supporting? That kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, well, you guys now have a office across the street here from First Free. I've got dear friends that have kind of given themselves to learning how to help people in your ministry. So we often suggest that to people. We're pastors. Yeah, I'm a Bible guy. You know me. My guy's here with me. We can tell you what the Bible says,
Hmm.
and we will. But sometimes people need, I don't know the best way to describe what you do. They need a guided tour with someone skilled to take them there to the places of pain inside. But it needs to be a guided tour and it needs to be someone skilled in doing that.
Hmm.
And we're not. I tell you what the Bible says, and I can tell you that if you want to find freedom, what you need to do is come into agreement with the truth
Hmm.
of what the Bible says, right?
Right.
That's what's going to, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Hmm.
Believing lies is what wrecks us, and strongholds get built. Those lies get broken the same way they're built. We come into agreement with the truth.
Hmm.
And the more we come into agreement with the truth, the freer and the more healed we become.
Right.
But it's not always like that for us. Like me, I
Hmm.
believed the truth.
Right.
I did in my mind, I did, but I needed help to believe the truth. I needed it, and I needed someone helpful, someone skillful in that. What I mean is like I would, I wouldn't dabble there, and I don't want my pastors dabbling in that
Hmm.
stuff with
Hmm.
people
Right.
because you can make someone. It's like ripping a band-aid off a gaping wound, man. And if you're not skilled to help them find Jesus in that pain and receive the truth and find healing, you can make them worse, right? And
Hmm.
dude, there's just some people that have gone. First of all, I think anyone can benefit from it just because we all got crap, man.
Right.
Like we all believe lies about
Hmm.
certain things, and sometimes we don't even know the lies that we believe. And just sitting with someone that works with you or you know, sometimes people are surprised even like, whoa, I didn't even know I was believing that lie, right? But
Right.
but again, just for us in real time in ministry when broken people are in front of us, it's evident to us. Like, you know what? You need something more than we can offer, for lack of a better way to say it. You need someone to help you get to the root of that. There's pain in there that you need to find healing from. And so we often, even now here, this church, it suggests that ministry to people.
Yeah, and you guys have been great supporting us financially. Like, and I love that we're trusted because it's no strings attached. It's like we've seen what you've done over the years. We know you, we trust you. Here's your check for the year. God bless you. Have even
Yeah.
said, do we need to keep records? Do we need to keep in contact? only when it's necessary as far as just relationally. But I think they both your side and our side understand that accountability is first to the Lord, and if we're being faithful to
That's
Him,
right.
then we're good to go.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, and we didn't come looking for an office space across the parking lot, and I had nothing to do with finding that place. It's like, oh, wow, walk out the parking lot and about 50 feet across the street there, boom, we're right there. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a blessing. It's a
Yep,
blessing to this church. Yep.
for sure. And then when I'm there once in a while, we can grab a bacon cheeseburger and a Cobb salad. How's that?
The Red Pines.
Red Pines, baby. All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, you got it, man.
All right, cool. Thank you for listening to the CrossCounsel podcast. We invite you to visit CrossCounsel.com to learn more about genuine healing and becoming a more useful instrument in God's kingdom purposes. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. It helps others discover the same potential for hope and healing found only in Jesus. Again, thank you for listening.